Very good morning. I saw the AI panel was in big letters, which certainly raises the expectations. But I've been seeing lots of people I know this morning. It's wonderful to be here. I think I was at the last conference about 2 or 3 years ago, and congratulations to them and others for bringing us all together again. So we're talking about AI for about an hour now. Personally, I've worked in the space for about 7 years with our organization, Morality and Knowledge and Artificial Intelligence. I suppose I wanted to say before I bring our esteemed panel out that I think most of us, all of us really know the potential. We understand that there's great opportunities and breakthroughs from artificial intelligence. We read about it a lot, we hear about it a lot. So what can we do with this panel that really makes it effective? And I would say we really want to get to the grounded perspectives. People doing things, people trying things, people failing at things, people learning about things, that practical reality and what it genuinely achieves. So I'd invite our panel to step up if they don't mind. I think they're all down here, and please give them a round of applause.
Right. Well, in the order that you're in, if I can ask you to introduce yourselves, but also what are you working on with artificial intelligence, and what things have you tried and what projects, so that perhaps we can dig into some of these later on. Gabriel, if you want to go first.
Hello, first, thank you to have me. Well, I am Gabriel from DAFO AI. Well, it's really exciting times to talk about the AI and how we are implementing this in the industry. Our company basically starts thinking about, in COVID times, about how to train people where it was not possible to train side by side a person. Then we designed a guidance system to help in the manual assembly processes, to teach to the people how to do the manual assembly process. After that, the system helped to, in the guidance system, to prevent mistakes during the assembly process. This is all based on the AI help to the people to improve their shop. Well, after that, we are now with a co-worker system, a system that have a method to help to visualize the data in real time, assisted by AI, of course, to offer the decision, to offer the information in real time that we need to see during the day, yeah? Not to explore in different systems. The system provides the information alone. This is the thing that we are working to help people to do better the job. Thank you.
Right. Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Trzepadłyk. Well, a bit of a background, I guess. I'm a mechanical design engineer, and I've spent many years designing engines for motorcycles, cars, and the Formula One. But I was always very interested in the technology, and obviously the AI is a big thing. It's coming on. And at some point, I've realized that actually it gives us so many opportunities that I found a niche or an opportunity to design those AI tools, solutions for businesses. And because of my background, I try to focus on mainly mechanical and manufacturing sector, and I build tools for them, I build AI tools for them, which help them streamline the processes. I build tools which can make things, which can like quote easier, faster, which can, allow transfer the data quicker, easier. I guess that's probably everything for now. We can probably talk about it more later. Thank you.
Good morning. So my name is Graham Williamson from Connected Places Catapult. So really, the Catapult network is there to provide a bridging of the gap between great ideas and commercialization of those. Connected Places Catapult, we focus on innovation regarding connected places. That could be how you travel to work, resilience of places, sustainability of places. So from an AI perspective, whilst we have teams internally who are doing AI activities, we also work with the market and understand actually what are some of those barriers to AI uptake and commercialization of those, and we can dig into some of those barriers a bit later. The types of things we would do as a team internally, so we're working across sectors on resilience in places. So we've got a program called CREDO, which is Climate Resilience Decision Optimizer, where we're using Bayesian networks to look at the cascading effect of failures of, for example, climate change. So you've got a high temperature incident that may last several days, or floods. Then that might take out a power station. The knock-on effect of that could do a water pump, etc. And you're starting to plan out and map those so you can start to make smart investment decisions on flood resilience or further resilience. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm Dr. Patrick Stacey. I'm an associate professor of digital business at the University of East Anglia. I'm also a principal investigator at the European Space Agency, where I'm studying the mental health of astronauts, who are not as bulletproof as you might expect. I'm also the founder of Anquilitas, which is an emotional health analytics company. We address the productivity stagnation in companies by trying to deal with lost productivity due to stress, mental health issues. We also look at doing productivity boost as well through the analytics platform, which provides a big suite of visualization data as well as remediation and so on the platform itself. I've actually been in the tech sector for 30 years. I began my career in Singapore, where I pioneered video on demand as well as digital downloads of music in Southeast Asia. Since then, I've seen the rise and the fall of the internet, I suppose you might say. I've seen it adopted, and I've seen it been abused, and now we see Tim Berners-Lee with his Magna Carta of digital rights and so on. So there is a definite ethical edge to the issues that we have today, which I also research and publish on. So yes, I'm very much looking forward to this panel and to talking to you guys and fielding any questions you have.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Selin Tur. I'm the Managing Director and Chief Technology Officer of Williams Grand Prix Technologies. Williams is well recognized, one of the worldwide recognized historic British Formula One racing team. As most of Formula One racing teams, we got an engineering and technology services and consultancy arm. It's my pleasure to run that. And our purpose is taking all of those technologies, going into designing, developing, manufacturing, and racing Formula One racing cars across various industries and adopt them into other industries, and creating further value out of Formula One across for the humanity. My background, I'm an engineer, probably one of the engineers who pioneered and pushed forward electric vehicles and their battery technologies. That's my background. Over 20 years, I think I electrified everything, including Formula One and Formula E cars, and worked across motorsports racing industry, automotive engineering fields. So managed gaining a wide industrial perspective of how industries are applied in fast-paced smaller organizations to larger scale businesses. So coming back to Formula One environment, we are utilizing Formula One technologies to make us much more efficient in doing our job. Ultimately, we are under resource restrictions. We are limited with how much money we spend, which drives how many engineers we can have. We can have limited amount of wind tunnel running. We can have limited amount of even CFD simulations running. So everything we do is trying to be more effective and more efficient and productive. And one of the most interesting use cases that we adopted was actually fusing digital twins, effectively modeling and simulation technologies with machine learning, especially in the form of creating digital twins by writing physics, but where there are details that we cannot clearly model, then start building neural networks and fuse them to close the gap that we cannot clearly simulate. So, and we are applying this technology particularly quite interestingly across utility sector to provide predictive maintenance, predictive analytics across assets of utility sector, interesting enough. So, and beyond that, everything else we are doing around simple data ideation to document generation, we utilize AI technologies.
Thank you very much. Wow, what a diverse and interesting panel. So I've got the live dashboard in front of me with your questions that are coming through. I've had 2 so far, so please keep those coming and I will come to those in just a moment. They're coming through as anonymous at the moment, so I might ask you to give me a little wave when I read your question out, just so I know where it's come from as well. But let's just set the scene a little bit, if we can. And Sarah, perhaps we could start with you. I read that you formed a couple of partnerships at Williams with, let's look this up, Brilio and Area. And obviously in your sector, I mean, the amount of data that you're dealing with on race day and the real-time nature of that. I mean, I forget the stats, but I used to work for Oracle, and it was something like 1 million data points a minute or something coming out of a car. So obviously you're in this area of massive opportunity with AI. My question, though, just to set the scene really is, what does it take for you personally, the organization, to start building that confidence about working with that data?
So, I don't know how many of you are interested in Formula One racing, but Formula One and generally motorsports has always been a data-driven industry. I remember my first race as a race support engineer. I was one of the engineers who developed the first generation hybrid Formula One engine at Mercedes, and I was supporting Melbourne race. I was sitting at my home in Leamington Spa, and before the TV telemetry came from Melbourne, I had already data telemetry at my living room on my laptop, because data was replicated in the garage, coming back into our factory servers, and I was pulling the data from there. This was the year 2009. And then, moving forward, that telemetry technology evolved all the way into agricultural machinery even. The way that we were structured, we had specialties across trackside. We were reading data, and we had our own channels thanks to very good class-leading data analytics software and visualization software. We were building analytics into that ourselves through coding models and trying to see those anomalies with the limitations of us as human beings, and lots of engineers trying to find out insights and communicate that. As the technology is progressing, we are still trialing a number of different approaches. As you suggested, probably one of the largest investments / partnerships we have, including Atlassian as our title sponsor, is around having the insights of data as quick and as fast as possible. That is the main game changer. Ultimately, you design and develop everything, and you're at the track site, and you're trying to decide if you pit stop this lap or next lap. And in between that, you're running stochastic game theory models and also trying to look into the data if the tires are degrading or not. And it is just that instance. So we are relying more and more on automation, but at the same time, not only during the live moment, but offline, we replicate and try finding how we can utilize data and new tools better in our processes.
Thank you. So Patrick, to continue that thought, and thank you, I see the questions coming through. There's a huge amount of nuance in the area that you've talked about, isn't there? The range of human emotions. Obviously, some of that needs to be in real time as well. I have a question from Nick Wilson in a second that I'll read out, but perhaps just talk for a moment, first of all, about your thoughts on using these vast data sets, such as the array of human interaction and emotion. I can't think of a bigger one, really, than that.
Yes, indeed. I mean, there's just to start off, there's a great deal of research, what we call positivity research, which looks at the connection between emotional health and productivity in organizations. Very, very well established, but we have lacked persistent tools that can really investigate this and bring it to light. A lot of this is very hidden. A lot of interventions tend to be survey-based, and you also have people like, to talk on the lost productivity side, what we do, people called stress experts, who are stress experts, who go into organizations and try to do interventions and to assist things. But these don't last very long. You know, classically, they only last maybe for a few months or for a season. So what we have done is that we have a real-time, analytic system that is constantly looking at people's, at your your messaging. It's private because it's done on an individual basis, so everybody has control over their own analytics. But yes, you can imagine just how many emails you receive a day, or how many Microsoft Teams transcripts there are. So if people opt in, they're able to use these as a source, as a signal, to try and understand what's happening, in your culture. So there's never been anything like that, that persists across time and space, in order to really see, what is the pulse here, So through that, then, we can take action. But yes, I mean, it's like yourself, you're dealing with massive data sets, and you mentioned the word confidence. The amount of data cleaning that you have to do, the amount of diligence that you need to do on the data, the old saying, garbage in, garbage out. So we could talk about AI algorithms and all of that and get nowhere. Unless you have excellent data and you can have confidence in that data, then you're not going to get very far. So that's the very first step, pre anything algorithmic, obviously, as everybody will agree on that, I'm sure.
So Nick, are you here? Right at the back, good to see you. Nick says, how can AI support the disability community, and are you seeing an increase in the development of ideas for that community? I thought that's one that maybe you could...
It's very interesting, very interesting. In fact, the main use case that comes out of that space is autism. So we've had people talk to us about how the system could be used to actually try and emotionally neutralize certain messaging to make it more palatable to autistic communities. That's not something that we're offering at the moment, but it's something that we have, well, I would say more than KIV. It's definitely on the feature map for the next couple of years. Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, quite a few questions come through now. Let's move on, and let's come to Graham. Let's have a general question here. So your opinions on the potential of AI to drive inclusion and fairness versus replicating and amplifying existing inequalities. What sort of concerns do your members of the community have around the uptake of AI, knowing that there can be some big downsides as well?
It's a great question. So the whole principle behind sustainability and ethical AI is a massively hot topic at the moment, as everyone can understand. It is early stages, and we're trying to kind of work with both the buying communities and the suppliers of AI to really start to design these principles in from day one. There was a question around accessibility as well in AI. The Connected Places Catapult are part of NCAT, which is the National Centre for Accessible Transport, and the principles behind that is that we are designing in accessibility and inclusivity from day one. And that is really important nature of kind of what we're doing across the piece as well. So one of the key elements of Catapult is a focus on people, and that includes inclusivity and accessibility as a core ethic behind us. So I'd be interested in kind of other panel members as well from kind of a design perspective, because I say we as a Catapult are working heavily across the SME ecosystem. I'd be interested in some of the SME thoughts of how you're designing in that kind of ethical aspects.
Well, for example, in our case, inclusivity, for example, if we need to teach to some person, for example, we have an example of a person who arrived from Ukraine, don't speak English, nothing, how we can include this person in our society to work. My original language is Spanish. Of course, if I need to interact with some specific topic in the industry, I don't have the words. I can speak English, not very well, but I can speak. But when we are in some specific topic, I don't have the word. Then we thought our system to translate the explanation that we have in the normal manual to assembly something, to explain to one person that speaks other language in their own language. And the system is a live system where the person can talk directly with the system and ask the correct question, and the system will offer the explanation, and with the camera check if the step was made correctly. But the other point, and very important point, is a lot of people have lack of attention, have a problem with attention, or people who have some disorder then cannot pay attention in one job that is necessary to do in repetitive mode, and it's not possible to automatize, because here in the UK we have a lot of factories that don't have automation, don't have any robot, have one robot for 100 employees. Why? Because we are not in the massive production for every product. And we have a lot of products that we manufacture 10 units today, 10 units in 2 months, 10 units of one variant. And it's exactly the point where we can help to don't forget the process, to have accuracy, to have quality, and we can put a new person to learn, a new person have one attention problem, a new person that have a different diseases, and with the system assisting in looking with the camera what the person are doing, we can offer this inclusivity to have access to more people to any shop where it's necessary to assembly, to manufacture. That, of course, we are power in this topic.
Thank you. So just to add that, a really key point from inclusivity is just to design with the user in mind. So one of the ways that the Catapult's going about that is we have a centre which is in Bristol Temple Meads called the Stations Innovation Zone, and we are focused on inclusive innovation, which is heavily AI based. And that really gives SMEs an opportunity to come into what would typically be a quite heavily regulated industry and break through those barriers of bureaucracy to get their innovations actually into the station and start to capture user feedback on that, so you can start to design and tweak to make sure that actually when you've got a product that is ready to kind of launch, that it's already been accepted by the user base that are going to use that, whatever that user base may be.
Yeah, and we'll spare the conversation this morning about the EU AI Regulation Act in the UK and its indecision, I suppose, a little bit about how it wants to regulate. And all these things must be huge factors, but I'm going to open up a chasm if I go into that. But we'll see what time we've got. There's actually quite a few questions coming in about well-being, so we'll definitely be revisiting that. That question was from Julie, I think, wasn't it? The last one. Thank you very much for that. There's one from Anonymous here, which, Adam, I'll direct to you and frame it as well. So the question is, AI has a multitude of potential applications, of course, but where do you see AI having the biggest impact on organizations? And who asked that one? Yeah, thank you very much. But again, let me frame this in perhaps the automotive industry, where there's a sense now that the future is less about the vehicle, isn't it? And it's more about the technology in the vehicle. We saw the launch of robo-taxis, for example, with Tesla just recently. And you might argue that with a company like Tesla, their goal really is to make money out of self-driving and technology and taxis, than it is potentially the development of cars in the future, same with BYD and so on. And that reflects your journey, I think, a little bit, doesn't it? Moving more into the application layer and AI. So why did you do that, and what would you say to others who are considering a journey like that in their career, a pathway?
Well, yes, it does. However, I think I focus on a little bit more down-to-earth things related to AI, not so much into like deep research and what could we achieve. So I don't really feel I'm the right person to answer this question. Like I said, I mean, the stuff I work on, I try to help with.
Tell us about your journey, though.
Sure. I mean, my journey, like I mentioned before, I'm a mechanical design engineer, and I've spent years designing mechanical parts, mainly engines. But then working for actually a few different organizations, I've realized that every organization has got lots of different internal processes, and usually the processes, sometimes those processes are not very smooth. They are tedious, there are a lot of repetitive tasks, and obviously AI is something that can help with this, and it can help a lot. So that's where I identified a niche and identified the opportunity to help with those, to smooth out those processes, build tools based on AI, but not always on AI. Actually, what I found recently, the more I talk to customers or potential customers, I realized that they don't even need very big AI, tools which heavily rely on AI. They need fairly simple automation tools which help them run business, smooth things out, make things quicker, easier, which means that there's a less human involvement. So this is what I'm trying to do. Like I said, I'm trying to build tools which are kind of down to earth, not so much big research projects which I don't really have a vision of what, probably I have some idea what can happen in the future, but I don't really try to focus on this. I try to focus on like real life solutions which we can apply immediately and make a use from it, like from day one, from now, literally.
That sounds very sensible indeed. Just stay with me one more moment. There's a question here for you specifically. Can AI be integrated into CAD to accelerate design optimization, particularly within SME environments? And happy to pass it around, but if you could speak.
Sure. You see,
who asked that one? Thank you very much.
This is something which I've been thinking about for a long time. It is difficult. I think it is really, really difficult because there are some people who try to use AI to generate drawings directly from the CAD models. And in theory, it is possible. You could do that. But there's a lot more going on in a designer's head. You have to have so many other factors into when creating a drawing. You have to know how do you want to make that part. What sort of processes are you going to use? Is it going to be, if it's, let's say, a metal part, is it going to be a cast part or a 3D printed part or a machine from solid? Every different manufacturing process has got a different, tolerances. It has a different details that you have to think of. And I think AI, it's not at this stage yet that it can actually take over and do it for you. It could probably do it with a human assistance, but I think it would become pointless because you'd have to assist it so much that you could probably do it yourself quicker. However, I know some of the CAD softwares at the minute, they use like a light AI modules which help you to generate some shapes or optimize shapes. But I think, as far as I know, AI is not at this level yet to actually make it autonomous, sort of tell or prompt AI and tell it, oh, can you please design me a fuel pump for this application? It's not going to do it, not yet. Maybe in the future, but I don't know, maybe someone else has got something to say about that.
Let me guess one thing. I saw your application about to create a quotation from the CAD, really impressive. And as an engineer, we hate the administrative task. We hate, everyone that is engineer here, hate the administrative task. Complete the form, complete the manufacturing execution system. Then with the AI, we are looking to remove the administrative task. I saw that your application reduced the 30 minutes to create a quotation to 30 seconds or 1 minute. Really, this kind of thing is where the AI can help. Put the focus in the task that we love and reduce absolutely the tasks that we don't like. For example, an operator that need to assemble a battery, for example, need to keep the concentration to don't do mistakes because it could be a big mistake, maybe have a fire. Then if it's necessary to fill a spreadsheet or a system and put how many batteries, how many different things in an administrative task, the person are losing the concentration. With the manager, for example, now a lot of assistant, the manager want to understand what happened with the business, what happened with the people, not understand how to obtain the information from the systems. Then, for example, in our case, the DAFO coworker is a visualizer with a critical thinking process in the middle to help in the decision making, to help in that process, where it's possible to visualize the information altogether. But what is the point? The point is the manager don't want to see all the papers, analyze the emails, check the emails. How many people from here say you have 10 important emails? What is the more important? The more important is the email that is connected with the customer that you have a call in 10 minutes. But it's not necessary to see the dashboard in the company to analyze. For example, in the manufacturing execution, say, yes, we have all red. I visit 10 companies and have all red in the dashboard. What is the more important red? Yeah, you have a very dark red or very light red. It's not green, yellow, and red. No, everything is red. But the more important red, this is something that is connected with your customer that you have a call in 10 minutes. Then the AI can help in that topic, connect the point in the company, and then you can have your mind about the human interaction, how you can be ready to talk with the other person, how you can be ready to talk with your customer, your supplier. This is the point of the AI. From my point of view, is where we can help.
Yeah.
You make me think of world politics at the moment. It's all red. It's just different shades of red. Sorry, you want to add something?
Maybe I'm more a techno-optimist here. I've got a little bit different perspective. I think AI and machine learning is so strong, gives you such a strong and superpower that by regulation, we are not allowed to use AI and machine learning in our CFD, exterior part of Formula One car design and development. Otherwise, our surfaces will be automated much faster. We can run multitudes of analyses in parallel to select which one is optimal. Actually, in the UK, I don't know if that's too optimistic, but we've got already $1 billion valued aerodynamics and CFD optimization business called as PhysicsX. Beyond math is no far away from that. And I think maybe AI and machine learning is not about doing things alone as a kind of artificial general intelligence kind of thing, but it is all about turning our engineers as 10x engineers, like you mentioned. Maybe one engineer being able to go ahead and design the gearbox all by himself, herself, rather than 10, 20 engineers working on it. We have a company in the UK, a couple of weeks ago, supplied 80% of the grid of Le Mans racing. It is one of the most famous racing series as part of World Endurance Championship, nicely based in Midlands. That company has hundreds of gearbox designs. I believe they can train a dedicated design tool, proprietary design tool, and come up with next generation of the iteration of that gearbox much better than anyone else, using much less resources. So I may be the optimist, but especially CAD space, I'm expecting an incredible disruption within as short as 3-5 years, actually. That's my perspective. I may be wrong. I'll come back and tell you how good they did.
Thank you. I've got quite a few questions that have come through. I probably won't be able to get through all of them, but let's see how many we can answer with some fairly quicker responses, perhaps. Patrick, this one might be for you. By its nature, deep tech has limited input data. Who asked this one? Oh, thank you very much. So what are your thoughts on the best use for AI in areas that are only just beginning to get large data sets, or perhaps usable large data sets?
Yeah, I mean, used to lecturing. Yes, it does all start with the data, absolutely right. So in actual fact, that's where the diligence has to be. You just got to work on that data set to begin with. Otherwise, it's like taking a big Thor's hammer to a little chestnut, isn't it? It's just not necessary. So first and foremost, you've got to get your data set together. And just to quickly tie back to what you were saying, completely agree, by the way, it's also a matter of being able to do things at scale. Right? So that's where these really come into their own. And also coming back to the CAD/CAM stuff, if you're looking at standard models or some standard problems, this is where doing things at scale can really ramp up productivity, particularly in terms of the temporal side of it. So again, you sort of might ask about. You said you used the phrase deep tech.
Yeah. So anywhere where you can't go back in history to get. There might be a few papers, but not millions of journal papers. So there might not be millions of journal papers. We're just having emerging experimental data, emerging design space, and It's
Okay.
I get sold
Brilliant.
companies come to me and go, we've got an AI solution for you, and I sit there going,
So-
well, we need that data first.
So you're going to have a look at your training pipeline. So the data training pipeline, you're going to start off obviously in using simulation batch data, but then you're going to have to revert to semi-batch, and then you're going to have to revert to near time or real time. So you've got to really, put some effort into how you're setting up that training pipeline. So it's all about the training. So that's where the focus is. And whilst you're doing the training, in terms of the ML ops side of it, you're also then going to be doing evaluation of different models. So what's the performance of all the different models that are then going to be applied into the data sets? So, there's a lot of diligence to be done around that too. So, but you can do these in parallel, right? Don't even try to second guess what the outputs are, because they'll never be what you expected. So, just focus on those two areas. That's what I'd say. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you so much for that. There's a few questions have come in about AI being a co-worker. Augmentation is a word that we hear a lot. Gabriel, perhaps we could come to you a little bit, because it's an area that you've been thinking about as well, isn't it? Let me read the question out here. Here we go. From Graham Williamson. You can give me a wave.
Is it for Graham or?
No. Did you ask your own question? As SMEs scale with AI, what role do AI human co-workers play in performance and retention, and how can firms gain true gains from the AI hype? And I note that we are over half an hour into the conversation now. We haven't talked about any job losses. Nobody said ChatGPT. This is progress. Gabriel, what do you think about that?
About job losses. Is correct?
Say again?
About job losses.
Yeah, about co-working and augmentation, and how that's a real growing trend with SMEs empowering people using this technology.
Well, someone checked my LinkedIn. I wrote some books this year, in the last 2 years, with a big concern about job losses. The company are saying how we can improve the people using AI and understanding how work the technology inside. Initially, the system helped to write an email. And well, now Office Copilot, for example, say, okay, the response for this email is this. And you say, oh, it's okay, or it's okay, accept. Tomorrow you accept a new one, tomorrow accept a new one. And after maybe 200, 1,000, professor, how many email we need to use to decide what is the best solution in the future? Maybe 1,000 emails is enough, or 1 million. Well, Microsoft have 1 million, or 10 million, or 10 billion emails. Then maybe in 3 or 4 months, the system can understand when you accept or cancel one email. This is one concern that I start to have with AI 2 years ago when I saw generative AI, ChatGPT. And we are in a revolution. Will be more complex than the Industrial Revolution, because in the Industrial Revolution, the machines are not thinking. Now the machines are thinking like us in the future. Today, the machine can think like us. Then, of course, they can replace us. Or, I published a book that say that we are not thinking anymore alone. We can use the machine to think with us and reinvent, and use a method something that we learn, unlearn, and learn again using AI. This is a method to prevent to lose the shop, in my point of view.
Thank you. There aren't two Grahams, you're right, that's true.
Yeah, just in terms of AI co-workers and augmenting, I guess a story that we're going through at the moment is we are implementing Copilot ourselves within our organisation. Now, that took a little bit longer than actually people wanted, because there were concerns over GDPR, etc., and what data to have access to and where it got processed. But we've got it now, and the kind of genie is out of the bottle, and people are using it in angst for creating their own applications, their own agents, etc. And personally, as a personal project, I've been using Claude Code. I'm not a coder or a programmer, but within a week or two, I could create a fairly complex program to extract information from government websites and analyse that, and for tendering, actually, for looking at government tenders, and then do AI analysis on that to understand which tenders are most applicable to Connected Places Catapult, and which ones we should be responding to, and then creating a draft proposal out of that. And that's me as a non-coder. Now, that's the kind of where we're going with this. Now, the difficulty behind this, and we talked about it with the CAD as well, the challenge behind that, because I'm not a coder, the code will be spaghetti code that I wouldn't dare put in front of a software engineer. But the point is, it got the job done, and kind of got the output I wanted. And my team are desperate for those types of augmented coding tools, because they are program designers, they are software engineers, and they can see actually the benefit of doing that, and the auto-completes that bring them, and they've got the knowledge of how it should be coded as well, so they're kind of using it properly, not like I'm doing. And it's only going to get better. And my personal opinion is that we are in the very early stages of AI adoption, and we look at AI adoption in the workplace. I think that AI adoption is going to do the same to knowledge workers that the Industrial Revolution did to kind of more hands-on work and labourers. And there will, no doubt, be job losses through this. There will be job replacements as well. There'll be new jobs, and I think that's the important bit of using AI to be better at the jobs we're doing, rather than letting AI just replace us completely.
Thank you very much.
Can I say something?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you think back to a few decades back, we had decision support systems, and I think wherever we have AI being used in a support role, it's fine. But the key thing that you have to remember is, would it compromise my USP? If it does, then think again. Also, just think about the benefits of having an actual physical team of people where you can generate culture, and what comes out of that generative culture is productivity, is well-being, is a reason to go to work, is a reason to wake up in the morning. I mean, it's just a domino effect of benefits. Yes, of course, I mean, you could look back 500 years. There's like 500 years of pent-up desire for AI, let's face it, since the Swiss alchemist Paracelsus first imagined the artificial man. And then we have Leibniz, and we have Turing, just centuries of pent-up desire for what we have now with generative pre-trained transformer technology. So I can understand why everybody's going for it and wanting to leap onto it and make use of it. But think again, especially from the USP and also the generative, the cultural side of your organizations.
Yeah, I'll stay with that sofa for a moment. It's interesting to think about perhaps AI slightly in the future, where companies might choose to make more data-informed decision-making and simulate decisions that large organizations could make with their data, with synthesized data, running a simulation potentially billions of times to come to the best possible conclusion. But if you think about that, there's nothing stopping your competitor running the same simulations on their company and on your company, almost preempting everything that you could possibly think of doing if you just relied on the data. So it makes the case, doesn't it, even with advanced AI, how actually creativity is going to be critical, and how we want to build organizations that are better at that and more resilient. And I think those chasing more efficient organizations, whatever that means, leaner or faster, I think this might be a bit more of a blip, actually, on the horizon. And the idea of letting your brilliant staff members go because you've seen an LLM seems like utter madness to me. And there is no pathway from LLMs to AGI. We know that as well. Right. So we have to make the case very carefully that we need to invest more and have more resilient teams right now, not weaker teams from that. But you did talk about, you sort of mentioned IP a little bit there in your last comment, and there is a question from Anonymous again, but we'll get away. If companies fear using AI due to IP leakage, what does secure IP and AI future look like? It's a big question. I was going to ask you, Selim, but I'm happy if you want to defer the question first about IP. But the great example was Samsung, wasn't it, where one of the engineers put the information behind one of their flip phones in, and it sort of resurfaced later on in somebody's query with the details of how they were building it, which was a bit scary. Would somebody like to pick up the IP question first?
I'll start. Normally, when I talk about what we do, one of the first people approaches me would be an IP or patent attorney and asking me this question. So,
Who asked this question, by the way?
Sorry, that's me again.
I think that's a sensitive topic, IP infringement. I don't know how much I can speak about it because we operate in a kind of specific environment on racing, and then we go into a more industrial domain. First of all, protection of our own IP, all of the tools that you can use. I think most of the time these questions come through use of LLMs and enterprise business versions of them. Even for your personal use cases, you can always opt out of sharing your own data and training those models, and it's certainly something you should be doing if you haven't done that. But beyond that, everything else is more or less as you try protecting sensitive information you don't share publicly. I don't know what you can do beyond that, to be honest.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to wean yourself off ChatGPT et al. As soon as possible and then implement your own. In fact, you can implement your own what's called quantized LLMs for like 4 gigabytes. They're not massive models. So these are like shrink-wrapped LLMs that come pre-trained. So it's good to do that, and especially if you go for the open source ones, because then you can tweak them, create your own IP on top of them. For instance, you know, what's coming out of UAE, the TII Apache Falcon, not the Apache Foundation, but Apache Falcon they call it. Yeah, so it's important to do that. I mean, for us, we do what we call white box sentiment analytics, which means that we're opening up the sentiment engine to users so that they can get control of it, you know, because everything is black box, right? As far as, you know, most people in the audience probably concerned, you've just been using black box AI, where you have no idea what's going on under the hood, right? So you don't have any control of it. It's like, how does that work for me? So again, it's good for very standardized sort of responses, very standardized IP and stuff. But again, there's no shortcut to creating your own IP, you know.
Gabriel, then we'll come to Graham in a second. Yeah.
Sorry about that, but I have one concern about everyone are talking about IP and share the data with the ChatGPT. But many of us use Google Docs, for example. Someone pay Google Docs? Maybe no one, maybe a couple of people. Why Google have Google Docs for free? Because they are good people. Million of servers, million of gigabytes for free. Wow, incredible. Very nice company. How we, maybe Catapult can open a data center to have Google Docs for free. It's a lot of money. Really a lot. Why they have that? Maybe we are preventing to put our IP in ChatGPT, but we are all our wording is in Google Docs. Fantastic. And we are sharing the document with the other engineer, and it's in private mode, of course. But it's a free version of Google Docs. What they are doing with our data? Who is the customer? Or who is the product? We are the product. Or knowledge or data inside Google Docs, Office 365, is their data. It's not our data anymore. They are training the AI model with our data. Why we have the concern about ChatGPT when the data that we use is in free repositories for free, 1 gigabyte, 10 gigabyte for everyone. How many gigabytes we have here? Maybe 1 terabyte? I have 1 terabyte for free since 1 year. Maybe for them, my information is very useful. Well, this is the question, what we are doing with our information, and after we say, oh, our IP, and we are using free services with our data. This is my reflection about that.
Yes, I once heard people asking, can we trust the Chinese with our data? I thought, well, we can trust anybody. Why do you think you can trust the Americans or anybody else? It's a massive assumption. I went into my Dropbox recently, and I've had Dropbox for many, many years, and I saw there were 7 APIs operating legacy in there, which meant these 7 companies could just literally read and download and extract any file from my Dropbox they wanted. It was just a wild west. It still is to some extent, but just a wild west of data hijacking in the past. We're a little bit tight on time, and Graham, I suppose I want to ask you a bigger question to make sure we've really asked it in this session, which is just simply thinking about what does it take for an SME to reflect on these kind of conversations, to de-risk their AI and scale quickly. There's nothing we want more than that in the UK, really, is there, from a growth perspective? What advice do you have?
No, exactly. So, yeah, there are many barriers to kind of innovation and growth in the UK. It's interesting reading the industrial strategy and some of the ways the government are looking and going about supporting growth, which is fantastic. The way that we look at supporting SMEs is multifold. Typically, we try and bridge the gap between, we work with the buyers of the innovation and making sure that actually that when big organisations, whether it's engineering organisations, the government, private, public sector, whoever, can actually procure and procure innovation in the best way. So we work with buyers. We've got a centre called the Innovation Procurement Empowerment Centre, which teaches organisations the power behind the new Procurement Act. And rather than going out with specifications, go out with a challenge, go out with a problem. Let the innovators innovate rather than kind of stifling them. And then from an SME perspective, again, the way we're supporting is through the likes of accelerator programs. So again, these are challenge-led. So example being HS2 with National Highways, and where we work with them, go out to market with typically sometimes the funding behind it, sometimes there is just the support in terms of helping SMEs grow. And if we take a HS2 accelerator example, through that accelerator program, we've brought in probably about 40 SMEs now that we've actually helped them go and pitch for further funding from investment communities, from British Bank, etc., and managed to get over 200 million of investment funding into those SMEs, whilst giving them greater support for scale-up and commercialisation. Other activities we're doing, so we're working with the Department for Transport on freight innovation, looking at sustainability and optimisation of freight. And again, we've got an accelerator program there, but also we've got what we call a cluster. So it's bringing together those big tier 1 freight organisations that need this innovation and bringing together with the communities that are actually innovating in the SME community. And so you can start to connect the dots and bridge the gap and start to prove that technology. And if you take an example of one of those kind of success stories, there's an organisation called Skyports, which is a drone vertiport infrastructure builder plus operator. And they're one of the first organisations through the Freight Innovation Fund and have now got a contract with Royal Mail Group, and they're doing daily drone flights over to the Orkney Islands from mainland. And also they've got through, they've just recently got over 110 million of funding through Series C funding. So again, kind of great kind of pull through, scale up examples there. So that's kind of how the Catapult is trying to help organisations. But it is still a challenge. We've still got a long way to go.
Thanks, Graham. Well, we're sort of horizon scanning, and let's stay on that for the last 9 minutes or so. And Selin, I mean, you must get approached by SMEs who want to introduce new technologies, perhaps AI technologies. You have a little think about some of the trends that you're seeing that our audience here could learn from and think about more. And what do you look for when an SME approaches your organisation?
Well, ultimately, our focus is, or our customers are mostly around wider motorsports other than Formula One, automotive, defense, larger, aerospace and utility sectors, and these are the areas that we operate mostly. And it is not only about AI, actually. It's about coming up with lighter materials, lightweight in the classic mechanical systems, to making them more intelligent integrating advanced control systems into them, or making things more sustainable. So in many ways, my main focus is using AI and machine learning techniques to get things done in a much more efficient and faster way. That is where we stand. In most cases, our customers are still needing, I don't know, lightweight or aerodynamically efficient designs, rather than they don't care about if we used AI or machine learning on the background, or they need a control system being really precision, or that their predictive analytics working really, really strong, much better than, much faster accuracy than what they have right now. And on the background, what they have, what we use, I'm not so sure how much they're interested. The end product seems like more interesting for our customers, at least.
That's brilliant, thank you. And Patrick, you're live building an organisation now. You're in a startup, we're in a scale-up.
Yeah.
Process. What advice do you have, and what trends are you seeing?
Sure. Well, in the words of Douglas Adams from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, don't panic to start with. It's the P's. So, firstly, be patient. Don't panic. If you've got a great idea and you've tested it at the idea stage, then you know you can move forward. Then you've got a prototype. And using common technologies for that, I think, is definitely good. But you've got to wean yourself off like that, off from that, as I said earlier. And then you've got to evaluate and pivot, because there'll be something to pivot on. And then partner. And you've got to start to reach out, form networks, partnerships. And this is how it really works. You can't do it in your bedroom. You have some bedroom musicians and whatnot. We didn't talk about music today and AI and all of that, did we? Some people are saying, what's the point in releasing music anymore? It's just going to get ingested into some model, right, and spewed out. So you might use that as an analogy to others. It's like, why would I put my business out there? It's just going to get ingested in some, data set, and someone else is going to. So again, it's about building in all of those P's, and a lot of resilience. On the mental side of it, it takes a lot of mental fortitude. You've got to be prepared for that. I've been doing this for about 6 years, but I have a solid belief in what I'm doing and what we're doing. I've built a team who are in the audience. Thanks for coming on, guys. And it's solid, and it's this belief and this vision that keeps you going. And if you don't have that, then you really need it to take you through all of the stages, because it takes a lot.
Are we in danger, do you think, in the UK, just stay with me 1 second, of undermining the great creatives and creative force that we've always had in this country? Think about some of the IP laws and so on, and protecting the AI companies.
It's interesting. The UK is so creative and so innovative, but it tends to be the case that it's just not encouraged, or it's not funded adequately, by governments. Also you look at HS2 and infrastructure and stuff like that. We're also pretty bad at that. But look at we innovated maglev, right? Does maglev belong to Britain? No, it doesn't. This is something that we're just very bad at. We have to improve that.
I just want to ask you one more thing, just but I have time to ask you. To what extent do you feel like you're using technology to solve problems that technology created, and does that keep you up at night sometimes?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think, as you can see, the pressure of life, Michael Croker calls it the panic society that we're living in. It's so true, and we keep looking for remediation, looking for ways out of it, using technology, maybe instead of just going for a walk, But yeah.
I remember, I think, when Google started auto-completing the sentences, I thought, oh, that's brilliant. I thought, wait a minute, you created this problem. I didn't need to auto-complete sentences until you started making sure I got 150 emails a day I can't live with. We've just got about 5 minutes, I think. 2 minutes. This clock must be slow. So just horizon scanning here on this sofa, words of inspiration here for everybody that's here today. What do we want to see more of? What are the opportunities? What's working? Last couple of minutes, anything that we can share that's useful?
Well, for me, it's a message. AI developer. Maybe a mathematician that understands a little bit how works the algorithm insights. And a person that traveled around the world for more than 400 cities. and talking with people. Thinking about the AI today, I realized that the people are stop thinking. This is my big concern. Everyone are using ChatGPT to write something. Do you remember how to write? I made a test some days ago, a couple of months ago, to ask to some person, can you divide using your pencil and paper two numbers? 1,255,000 divide 125. Do you know how to divide? No one remember. But I talked with a shop in my country, original country, Argentina. I talked with a person that have 70 years old. I said, you can divide. This person are selling grocery. You remember the people that have more than 50 years old here. When you are going to the grocery shop, say, I have 3 lemons, what is the price? And the person say, this 1 kilogram divide this, the price is this, directly. Yes, this is a pair. With the AI, we have exactly the same problem. We are using the AI to write, but no one asked to the AI, please give me some question to offer me a better response. This is a thing that I propose to you, everyone that use AI. When you ask, give me the marketing plan, give me the email to respond this, ask to the AI, do you need more detail to offer me the best response? And you can obtain from the AI some question that you need to complete. You need to offer the response to the AI. And you will realize that when you need to write all the information that the AI needs to offer the better response is longer than the email that you need to send.
Yeah.
This is my reflection for everyone.
Absolutely. I think the question we can all ask ourselves at the end of the day is, has ChatGPT made us smarter or dumber today? Wonderful panel. Thank you so much, Gabriel, Adam, Graham, Patrick, Selin. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for all the questions as well. Wish you a wonderful day ahead. Thanks for being a part of this panel.
Thank you.